Of all the multifarious forms of life with which the great African continent has been so bountifully stocked, none, not even the half-reasoning elephant or the armed rhinoceros, has been responsible for such a wealth of anecdote and story, or has stirred the heart and imagination of mankind to such a degree as the lion, the great and terrible meat-eating cat, the monarch of the African wilderness, by night at least, whose life means constant death to all his fellow brutes, from the ponderous buffalo to the light-footed gazelle, and fear, and often destruction too, to the human inhabitants of the countries through which he roams. A successful lion hunt is the culmination of a string of actions and reactions between lion and hunter. A weak link or break in the chain, and the building blocks of success start to tumble quickly and unpleasantly. Typically, a lion hunt will consist of baiting and blind sitting to create the contact point between hunter and hunted. Less common hunting methods are following tracks, following the sound of roaring lions, and also looking out for vultures or hyena tracks that could lead to a lion kill. In a perfect world where all is black and white, the success chain would be: hang a lion bait, the correct trophy lion feeds, build and sit in a blind undetected by the lion, the correct trophy lion returns to feed, the lion presents a clear shot, the hunter makes a good shot, the expired lion is recovered. But this is a fair chase, wild, free-roaming lion bow hunt in a vast stretch of African bushveld. There is no black and white, only dancing shadows of grey, brown, green, and tawny in ever-changing light. A male lion, having not fed for several days, is capable of eating up to 90 pounds of flesh in a single sitting. Have two hungry male lions find your bait, and the realization that half a Cape buffalo is not adequate becomes all too apparent. Large baits need to be attached with strong chains or ropes to sturdy trees. The bulk of the meat should be higher than 8 feet off the ground so as to make feeding difficult, but at the same time keep the lion interested and returning to bait. A bait needs to be detectable by lions, placed along their movement patterns and reasonably near to water. The further a lion has to go to water, the greater the chance of finding a distraction that will prevent him from returning. Find bait trees at the junction of rivers and game paths, or vehicle tracks where lion are likely to patrol. Scent of a bait will lead a lion directly to it. Dragging offal on the ground to the base of the bait tree leaves a scent trail that all carnivores can and will follow. While not wanting to waste bait on a hyena feeding frenzy, it can be beneficial to have them present. Their vocalizations will attract lions from miles around. Their presence is a reassurance to the lion of no imminent danger. Lions are constantly vigilant of their surroundings, guarding territory and seeking food sources, both at night and during daylight hours. Bait should be hung under dense foliage covered with leafy branches so as to be invisible to circling vultures. A visual reference of vultures descending onto a bait would be highly beneficial, but vultures should be avoided by all means. They soil the bait and can deplete the meat in no time. The ground should be swept clean under the bait to show up any tracks of animals that feed. In the days before trail cameras, this was the only way to know which animals were visiting the bait.
See the main hairs. Yeah, young male.
Nowadays, the cameras take a lot of guesswork out of baiting. From a single trail camera picture, you can get so much more information. What animal, its sex, age, trophy quality, and time it spent at the bait. A lion feeds, and all the evidence is pointing to it being the correct lion. It's time to build a blind. There are many variables that come into play with blind building. The success of a blind in concealing hunters is largely dependent on the hunter's knowledge and expertise. Prevailing wind direction is the first consideration, closely followed by the direction in which the cat arrives from and departs to a waterhole or a shaded rest area. The approach to and the bait itself should be positively upwind of the blind to allow for any morning or evening wind variation. Some natural structure between the bait and the blind is a great help in making the lion feel secure at the bait tree. Should he sense danger from the blind, knowing there's an obstacle between him and danger is likely to ease the situation. This can be a fallen tree trunk, some low-lying brush cover, or a ravine with bait on one side and blind on the other. Whether it is a ground blind or tree stand depends on each individual baiting situation. Ground blinds are better for approaching on foot undetected, while tree stands keep the hunters up and distance from elephant, rhino, or any other creature that objects to their presence. Human scent seems to be much less of a problem when elevated. Sound and movement may be passed off as roosting baboons or guinea fowl. Blinds should blend in with surroundings as much as possible. The cat's attention is often drawn to out-of-place looking blinds. They will keep a close eye on anything that raises their suspicions, and at times will investigate a blind that is obviously different to the bush that surrounds it. Another important consideration in blind construction is to make sure the blind is not silhouetted against the skyline. An alert lion will easily pick up the slightest movement in a blind, and even more so against a skylit background. In this day and age of massive human overpopulation and the resultant encroachment of mankind onto wildlife habitat, trophy hunting apparently is responsible for wildlife population decrease across the African continent. With this simplistic notion that game numbers should remain what they were 100 years ago, when the human population has increased more than tenfold, we as professional hunters and safari operators are bound, often by law, to only take lion that fit certain demographic criteria. We are charged with ensuring that best practices for conservation are at the forefront. In many countries, it is now law that only lions older than 5 years and not attached to a pride can be taken. Typically, a male lion is expelled from a pride at about 3 years old. He becomes nomadic until, at around 5 years, he has the confidence to fight his way into and attain pride male status. At about 8 years old, he will be ousted from the pride by a younger and stronger male. If injuries sustained in this ousting do not kill him, he then becomes nomadic again. Now we have a legally huntable lion for 1 year until he reaches the age of his expected natural life at 9 years. Professional hunters are trained in how to age lion and will err on the side of caution, bearing in mind this is done on a live lion at 70 yards, invariably in low light. The nose, if not totally black, should be darkening away from the pink nose of a young male. He should be covered in battle scars and most likely have tears in his ears. The ears should be enshrouded by the mane hair. His teeth should be yellow, worn down and chipped, broken or missing. Hanging jowls, sway back, mane hair on elbows, between the shoulder blades and underneath the belly. The overall body condition should be in decline and not the solid, powerful, well-built lion he once was. Trail cameras have become a tool as vital to cat hunting as a rifle. They are used on every lion hunt. Sometimes a rifle is not. Bow hunting a lion is a lot more difficult, challenging and exhilarating than hunting one with a rifle. It requires way more stealth and patience to achieve a contact point, and once there, a cool nerve and quick thoughts. The highs and lows of the hunt are exaggerated. Success awards a far greater sense of accomplishment. Accuracy, important with both rifle and bow, is more difficult to achieve with a bow. A more pronounced trajectory makes judging distance critical, and the fact that a bow is free handheld and never braced on a rest such as shooting sticks. Too much distance between bow and target, and the lion will startle at the arrow being released, jump the string. From an ethical and safety standpoint, all a hunter ever strives for and tries to achieve is a quick, clean kill. Close the distance to improve accuracy is the most obvious solution, but being in such close proximity to an animal comes with its own set of difficulties. With a dangerous game animal, those difficulties are compounded. Because of the importance of having bait on a lion hunt, it becomes more about getting meat and not about making a successful stalk. A rifle is used for shooting bait animals, as they are often required urgently, so there's no time to waste on failed bow stalks. When bait is needed and quickly, the go-to animals are the larger, more easily found, and those that the area quota permits. Hippo, if available, make fantastic lion bait. You can get up to 6 sizable baits from a hippo. They are relatively easy to find, and the fatty meat seems to be a favorite for cats. Recovery of a hippo is usually relatively quick, the most time-consuming part being waiting for it to float after being shot in the water. Bloating caused by stomach content is what gets a hippo to float. So best to shoot it early morning when the stomach is full of fresh grazing from nocturnal feeding. When considering the amount of bait they provide, the weight is a small price to pay. Shooting one on land means putting in a successful stalk when they are at their most vulnerable and alert.
Reload. Right. Shoot him again. Okay, come.
Giraffe also make great bait animals. A bit more difficult to hunt, but for the 7 baits you get out of them, well worth the effort. Getting a shot at a giraffe can be testing.
Reload.
The skinning and recovery also take a while, but not always. Buffalo are commonly used, found in almost all lion hunting areas. They are usually plentiful and often on quota for lion baiting. If females are permitted for baiting, finding an old cow without a calf is a lot less time consuming than looking for a trophy bull.
Reload. Come, let's go up.
Normally either the front or rear half is hung as a bait, so only 2 baits from a buffalo. Zebra provide fatty, strong-smelling baits, also favoured by cats as with hippo meat.
Just behind the shoulder. And with the body.
Zebra baits don't seem to rot as quickly, maybe because of the coating of oil on the meat.
Good shot. Great shot.
Only 2 baits out of a zebra, but because cats like it so much, they are a useful bait animal. Clients often keep the skin too, which adds value to the use of zebra. And that brings us back to our lion bow hunt. 3 weeks of baiting and blind sitting, and we still hadn't seen a shootable male lion. There was plenty of lion activity, maybe too much. The lion seemed to hit a bait and return only once, when we weren't sitting in the blind. Sometimes they would move off and hit another bait a few miles away. Sometimes they would just disappear. On the 24th hunting day, another hit on bait. 2 male lions. One was thin and not in good condition, a lot older than the other. This is a lion to work on. We built an elevated blind in a hurry, and with not much time to spare, climbed into the blind late afternoon and sat, hoping the lions would return before dark. If they only came later, we had a green flashlight that would provide light for the hunter to see. Just on dark, I could hear the lion panting underneath the blind. It was a hot, still November night. The lion approached the bait tree, 34 yards. I could only see one, had to make sure it was the old one. The light was fading fast and binoculars became unusable. I had the camera set on infrared and had infrared illumination from the trail cameras to be able to film it, and use the viewfinder as night vision. Had to wait for the lion to be feeding, making noise and distracted, before the hunter could stand up and draw the bow. I put the flashlight on, and he released. The lion dropped from the bait as the light came on, and fortunately that shot was a clean miss. With the help of the trackers we found the arrow. No blood on the fletching. No blood on the tracks. It definitely was a clean miss. Next morning the trail cameras and timestamp showed the lion had returned 35 minutes after we left. He was obviously not as disturbed by the arrow as he would have been by a rifle shot. We had to overcome the difficulties of the night before. We put up a light on a dimmer, aimed at the bait tree, had an infrared flashlight mounted on the camera for permanent night vision, and we fitted a lighted knock to the arrow. Because the lion can drop from the bait with no warning, the shot should only be taken when he's on the ground, or as he stands up on hind legs reaching up to the bait. Back in the blind late afternoon, again panting under the blind for about 10 minutes. No movement, we're hardly able to breathe. He's only 3 meters below us. The daylight has gone. The lion moves over to the bait. There's no wind, very hot and humid. He stands panting, looking around. Luckily for us, only the old male was returning, and we did not have two to deal with. He starts to move around to the right of the tree, where we need him for the dimmer light to be effective. He hears movement and looks at the blind. Because we're up in the tree canopy, he doesn't seem to pay it much attention. He begins feeding on the bait, making noise. Finally we can move, and I start to brighten the dimmer light. With the light at its brightest, he glances at it, but again doesn't seem too worried. A croaking toad provides some welcome background noise, and enough of a distraction that the hunter can stand and draw the bow. He couldn't have made a more perfect shot. The arrow passes through. The lighted knock shows it pegged in the dirt after exiting. The lion runs 17 yards and stops. To our relief, we can hear throaty, gurgling sounds as he breathes his last. Old cat, worn down teeth, missing teeth.
Yes, good job, guys. Hey.